What was the nicest thing someone has done for you? When my parents were awful, and my sister was passing away, my friend's parents took me in for a while, but they did it in a way that seemed like a sleepover, for a few months. I didn't realize until I was an adult how much they stepped up for me. Sounds a bit like what my dad used to do for me. My mother would go into terrible rages, start throwing and breaking stuff. I was preschool age. When it was obvious she was getting started, my dad would just take me for a walk before I realized what was going on. We used to walk around for hours, me just asking him stuff constantly like a toddler does. That is amazingly sweet of them. I hope you're still close with them. I went to a local breakfast spot after a rough night. Totally forgot my wallet, so I left my phone as collateral and went to my house. Came back and some guy had already paid for me. I know it doesn't seem that big of a deal, but it was a pretty bleak week for me, so it meant a lot. Kinda similar story where I left my wallet in my friend's car before I switched back to my car and only found out after I filled up at the gas station. Guy servicing the pump knew me as a regular and said it's all good and put his own money at the register. Paid him back the next day plus extra, and now just passing by the gas station gets my mood up. A few years ago I was going down to visit my grandmother in South Carolina. I needed an inspection and oil change and was a single mom of a 5-year-old. The total ended up being $40 more than I thought. At the time that was devastating, and I had to tell my daughter in the parking lot we couldn't go see her grandmother anymore. Someone heard me talking to her and came over to us and gave us $60. That was one of the nicest things someone I don't know has done for me. One of my high school bullies invited me to his house to hang out for a day. I was really nervous it might just be to screw with me, but I was desperate for some sort of friendship, so I went over. We're now best friends and he and his family feels like family to me, and I have no idea how we ever disliked each other. One of my best friends from high school was a big jerk to me and I was back to him. This lasted almost all of freshman year. This stupid kid was the first person I ever didn't get along with. Not sure what happened, but we became best friends for the rest of our time in high school. He lives out of state now and I miss him from time to time. Have you ever asked him what prompted him to invite you over? When I was about 13, the pastor of our family church heard me practicing Chopin on the piano. Knowing my parents couldn't afford it, he offered to pay for my music studies, organ, piano, music theory and ear training, so that I'd be prepared to enter music conservatory after high school. All he asked for in return was that I'd help out with the church's music program when needed, which, in itself, proved to be a wonderful learning experience. This kind, generous man spent thousands of his own money to help me along the way to a rewarding career in music. Username checks out. What a guy. My mother died and I was so stressed trying to find a way to give her the funeral she deserved. My boyfriend went down to the funeral home, made the arrangements, and paid the balance. By far the kindest thing anyone has ever done for me. He's a keeper, go marry him. I had something similar happen to me, except it was an old friend who'd come into a lot of money that paid for the funeral. I was so profoundly touched by the gesture that I returned the favor and killed him so that I could pay for his funeral as well. My firstborn had a severe deformity, and spent a week in hospital before we took him off life support. I was staying at the Ronald McDonald House, and even though one of the rules was that you are your own maid when you leave, complete with doing laundry and remaking the beds, I was a complete wreck. A kind stranger took care of my room for me even though they were going through their own stuff. Another blessing from that dark time is that the funeral home took care of everything for me, including all bills associated with the service and cremation. I will never not donate to the Ronald McDonald House, and I know what funeral home I'll be using when I one day need one again. Edit. Thank you everyone for the well wishes and the love, and really thank you to people who have said they will be donating to this charity. Without them I wouldn't have been able to have even the little time with him that I did. It was a very long time ago and very dark, sad time. It destroyed my family. A few years later I lost my husband to suicide stemming from the depression that happened from this, and while both deaths changed me, I'm very good now and know happiness. I want to say that I've thought about how very bad things can get in the world, but this stranger, and people like you show me daily that the world is full of amazing loving people, and even when I do get feeling really down, thinking about good people helps. You've all got me crying in a really good way. This is touching to read. I also have very fond memories of staying at the Ronald McDonald House. If anyone ever wonders if they should donate to the RM House, yes, do it. It is such an amazing charity. I just made a donation after reading your story. My ex-girlfriend turned me in for stealing opiates. Been clean a little over 2 years now. May have saved my life. So did she turn you in on malicious intent or to make you go clean? Similar story here. I was on probation and had started using opiates again. My mom found out after we talked on the phone and called the cops on me, knowing I would be in violation and go back to jail. Was extremely mad at the time, but I've also been off of all hard drugs for over 2 years now. Saved my life. A paramedic helping me after I was in a car crash took his time to come back to the car and bring me back my front tooth, that was really tiny, and he offered to go and look for it in a wreck, and at the same time found and brought back my partner's phone. I don't know his name. I was in such a state of shock I can't even remember how he looked like. But he put my tooth in a special liquid and the hospital team managed to put it back, saving me a lot of money. There was also a policewoman who put a blanket on me and made sure I kept it. The hospital only managed to take it off me right before I left. It was a green standard first aid blanket. I don't know why I refused to let go of it. Again, shock, but it provided a lot of comfort. Thank you so much, guys. My wife and I were driving our kids, 3 and 5 at the time, to the zoo. We narrowly missed being speared by a semi-truck, but also almost flipped our top-heavy minivan doing 75 miles per hour when dodging said semi-truck. All in all, we were very blessed to have our lives, let alone no damage. The same couldn't be said for other cars, but, fortunately, no one was injured, and the other SUV that flipped on its side and was full of kids had no one hurt either. The state trooper that showed up gave my daughter a little teddy bear that she still has to this day 5 to 6 years later. She even remembers getting it, which is pretty incredible for someone that age. I think that was the most meaningful thing anyone's done for me, and I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of good people in my life do incredible things for me, but this one stands out since it was directed towards my daughter, who I was lucky to still have alive at that point. It's always good to hear someone say nice things about EMS providers. I'm a paramedic and have been involved in all levels of EMS over a long career. You'd be pretty surprised at how seldom we get good comments called or emailed back to our bosses regarding good things we do for people. If anyone reading this finds themselves to be a patient in an ambulance or other EMS call, if you think you got good care, feel free to call the EMS organization, email, or send a letter. Medics work crazy hours and don't get paid much. The occasional thank you goes a long way. I've posted this before. This is the nicest thing someone has done for me. This was in Seoul. It was late at night and I decided to surprise a girl I was talking to by heading to her apartment, my now ex-girlfriend. It was around 10:30, and unbeknownst to me, the subway stopped running at 11 o'clock. Unfortunately, I was halfway there and I decided to message her, and she told me to take a specific bus to get to her city. I get on the bus, and I don't have the slightest idea on what stop I should be getting off on. Well, about 10 minutes later, a load of people get off on this one stop. An older Korean businessman sees me and motions to me that there's an available seat next to him. He starts talking to me in English and he says that the stop where I'm getting off is one stop before he gets off, and that he'll let me know when. We start conversation about where he works, how he learned English, what I'm doing in Korea. By the time we knew it, his stop came up. He profusely apologized to me and said that it was the stop before. I said, "It's okay, I'll just walk the opposite direction." As we get off the bus, we're both walking in the same direction. As we come up to an intersection, he flags down a taxi, tells him the subway station to drop me off on, and he paid the fare. All this while still apologizing to me. This is the story I wanted to hear, thanks for that. My faith has been restored in humans again, for the next 48 hours or so. Subscribe for more hot Reddit takes in your inbox, guaranteed.